You ever have someone decide your worth before you even get a chance to prove yourself? That's what my parents did. Not strangers, not teachers, not the world, them. I didn't flunk out of school. I didn't mess around. I just wasn't their version of smart. And they made sure I knew it, every single day. My name is Landon Blake, and I'm 24 years old. And the day I walked across that graduation stage, with honors, was the day my parents' smug little world cracked. But to understand that moment, you have to understand what came before it. Growing up, it was always clear who the golden child was. My sister Taylor was 2 years older than me, straight A's, debate team captain, piano recitals. My parents lived for her accomplishments. Me? I liked to build things. I fixed broken appliances before I hit middle school. I rebuilt a lawnmower engine in 9th grade just to see if I could. But since I didn't write essays that made teachers cry or win science fairs, I was labeled the hands-on kid. And in my house, that was code for not college material. I remember one conversation like it was etched into my bones. I was 17, sitting at the dinner table. Taylor had just gotten accepted into Stanford. My mom beamed like she'd won the lottery. My dad toasted with sparkling water. And then, my dad turned to me and said, smiling, "Not everyone's meant for academics, Landon. Some people are better with tools. There's no shame in trade work." It wasn't what he said. It was how he said it. Like my future was already sealed. Like I wasn't even worth discussing. And when I brought up applying to colleges, they shut it down. "We can't afford 2 tuitions," my mom said. "We'll support you if you want to go into plumbing or HVAC. Those are solid jobs," my dad added. But college? Not for me. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just decided. If I was going to prove them wrong, I'd have to do it without their help. So while Taylor moved into her dorm with a brand new MacBook and a fully funded tuition plan, I took a full-time job at a local hardware store and started saving. I applied to a small in-state university without telling them. Community college for the first year. Then transfer. Night classes. Weekend shifts. Online modules during lunch breaks. I didn't party. I didn't post about it. I worked. I studied. I kept my head down. And while they bragged about Taylor's internship in D.C., I quietly earned a 3.9 GPA. I think the moment they fully wrote me off was at Taylor's graduation 2 years before mine. They didn't even ask if I wanted to go. I found out from an Instagram post. She was standing with both of them in front of the Stanford seal, their arms around her like she'd just saved the world. I watched that photo longer than I should have. Not with jealousy, but with a quiet fire building in my chest. "I'll give them a graduation photo they'll never forget," I said out loud to no one. 2 years later, I was standing in a black cap and gown at the top of my class in mechanical engineering. I had 3 job offers in my inbox, one from a company that didn't care what my last name was, only what I could build. But the best part? My university sent formal invitations to family members 2 months before graduation. I had them addressed and mailed, without telling my parents a single word. I didn't expect them to come, but they did. And what happened when they saw me walk that stage, honors sash glowing, crowd clapping, was a moment I'll remember for the rest of my life. They almost didn't recognize me. I watched them scan the crowd as people took their seats. My name wasn't in the program under guests of honor, so they had no clue I'd be walking the stage. I could tell from the way my dad kept checking his watch, probably wondering if they were at the wrong ceremony. Then the dean stepped up to the podium and said, "And now, for our departmental honors, this year's top graduate in mechanical engineering, a student who worked full-time while maintaining a near-perfect GPA, Landon Blake." The pause after my name? It was glorious. I stood. People clapped. And when I started walking toward the stage, I saw it. My mom's jaw literally dropped. My dad leaned forward like someone had punched him in the chest. I wasn't imagining it. They were stunned. And as I shook the dean's hand and received that sash, I looked out over the audience and locked eyes with them. Just for a second. They didn't smile. They didn't wave. They just stared. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not resentment, not anger, freedom. After the ceremony, students were hugging family members, posing for pictures, throwing caps in the air. I stood off to the side, letting it all wash over me. That's when I heard my mother's voice behind me. "Landon?" I turned around slowly. She was holding her purse like it weighed 100 pounds. My father stood a few steps back, silent. We didn't know," she said. "You weren't supposed to," I replied. There was an awkward silence. "But you graduated with honors?" I nodded. "Top of my class." "How?" she asked, like it was the most impossible thing. "I worked," I said. "Every night, every weekend. While you were busy telling everyone how brilliant Taylor was, I was building something too." My dad finally spoke. "We thought you were working at that hardware store." "I was," I said. "That's how I paid for books, and tuition, and rent." They both looked shell-shocked. "Why didn't you say anything?" my mom asked. I met her eyes, calm, firm. "Because it didn't matter to you. You decided who I was a long time ago." There was no dramatic fight, no yelling. They didn't beg. They didn't apologize. Just a hollow kind of silence. Then my dad nodded slowly and said, almost like it hurt, "I guess we were wrong." That might have meant something. Years ago. But now, it was too late. I turned away and walked toward my classmates. One of them, Marcus, who'd studied with me for 2 years, clapped me on the back. "Yo, man, that speech was fire. Didn't know you were going through all that." "Yeah," I said, smiling. "Turns out I was college material after all." He laughed. "Damn right." Later that week, I packed up my little apartment and got ready to move across the country. I'd accepted a job offer with a clean energy firm in Seattle. Good pay, great people, real future. I left a photo from graduation behind at my parents' house, not out of spite, just as a reminder, a snapshot of the day I proved them wrong, not with words, but with everything they thought I couldn't do. Seattle was a fresh start in every sense. I arrived with 2 suitcases, a second-hand car, and a signed offer letter. The office wasn't in a shiny tower or some startup incubator. It was a repurposed warehouse, modern inside, exposed beams, clean light, walls covered in sketches of turbine prototypes and solar schematics. My manager, Kristen, greeted me like we were old friends. "Landon Blake," she smiled, shaking my hand. "We're lucky to have you. We saw your capstone project. Incredible work." I wasn't used to being praised like that. Back home, I was the backup plan, the helper, the one with the calloused hands. Here, I was an engineer, a teammate, a problem solver. It felt good, right, earned. I threw myself into the work. I didn't care about titles. I wasn't chasing approval. I just wanted to build things that mattered. Within 6 months, I was helping lead a microgrid project for a coastal town that had lost power 3 times that year. We installed a hybrid system, solar plus wind, with battery backups. I worked 12-hour days, learned more than I had in 4 years of school, and for once, I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. One day, Kristen pulled me aside after a meeting. "You've got something most people don't, Landon. You know how to grind. You don't expect praise. You just deliver." I nodded. "Comes from a place I don't really talk about." She smiled knowingly. Those places make the best leaders. A year into the job, I flew home. Not for a visit, for a speaking engagement. My old university invited me back to talk to incoming engineering students. It was surreal. I stood in the same auditorium where I once sat in the back row, invisible. Now, I was center stage. I told them the truth, that I wasn't the kid anyone believed in, that I paid my way through college while my family funded someone else's dream, that no one can limit your future unless you hand them the keys. And afterward, a student came up to me and said, "My dad thinks I'm wasting time with this degree. He wanted me to be a mechanic, but hearing you, I think I needed that." I shook his hand and said the only thing that mattered: don't let anyone write your story but you. On my way out of town, I drove past my parents' house. It looked the same. Tidy lawn, same beige paint. I didn't stop. But I did see my mom on the porch. She looked up, caught my eye. I gave a small wave. She didn't wave back, but she didn't look away either. It wasn't closure. It wasn't peace. But it was enough. Time passed. Seattle turned from a fresh start into something that felt like home. I moved out of my tiny studio into a one-bedroom near the water. Nothing fancy, but it had good light and quiet mornings. I bought a decent couch, learned to cook more than just eggs and pasta, and even adopted a dog, Murphy, a mutt with mismatched ears and the loyalty of a soldier. Work kept me busy, but it wasn't just about survival anymore. I was finally living. And then, 2 years into the job, I got the call. It was my sister, Taylor. We hadn't spoken since my graduation. Not really. Just a birthday text here, a neutral congrats on LinkedIn there. So when her name popped up on my phone that Wednesday morning, I hesitated. "Hey," I answered, cautious. "Landon. Hi. I hope this isn't weird. I wanted to talk." Her voice was softer than I remembered. No edge, no superiority, just uncertain. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yeah. Well, no. It's Mom." I felt something tighten in my chest. "What happened?" "She had a health scare, minor stroke. She's okay, stable. But it shook her, shook Dad, too." Silence. "They've been talking about you. A lot." I didn't say anything. "Look, I know things weren't fair," Taylor added. "I saw it too. I just didn't know how to fix it." That weekend, I flew home. Not out of guilt. Not because I owed anyone anything, but because I needed to see it for myself, where I came from and how far I'd come. When I walked into the hospital room, Mom looked small, fragile even. The same woman who used to say, "Not everyone's meant for college," was now hooked up to IVs and whispering my name with cracked lips. "Landon." I sat beside her. "Hi, Mom." Tears welled up in her eyes. She didn't apologize, didn't launch into explanations, just took my hand and said, "I'm proud of you. I should have said it sooner." And for once, I believed her. Dad was different. He hovered in the background, pacing like always. Nervous energy, bottled pride. He didn't speak until we were alone in the hallway. "You didn't have to come," he said. "I know. But you did." He cleared his throat. "I watched your speech, the one at your college. Found it on YouTube. That surprised me." "Didn't know you were interested in watching failures speak," I said, only half joking. He winced. "I deserved that." Then, after a pause, "We were wrong, Landon. About everything. You didn't just prove us wrong. You redefined what success looks like. And I was too damn proud to admit it." There was no ceremony, no hugging it out. But in that hallway, something cracked between us, and light got in. I stayed in town for a few days after Mom got discharged. Not because I had to, because I finally wanted to. We weren't suddenly a perfect family. That's not how it works. But something had shifted. The air was different. Less weight, less pretending. Taylor and I sat outside one night, just the two of us, on the back porch where we used to chase fireflies as kids. She handed me a beer. I took it. You know, she said, I spent so many years thinking I had to live up to their version of success. I raised an eyebrow. You were their version. She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. Yeah, and I hated it. I got into Stanford because I worked hard. But after that, everything felt like a performance. The internships, the perfect photos, the promotions. None of it felt real. I stayed quiet. Let her speak. When I saw your graduation post, when I saw you standing there smiling free, I cried. Because you didn't do it for them. You did it for you. That hit me harder than I expected. You never said that before. I wasn't ready to, she admitted. But now, I'm done living someone else's story. A month later, I got a message from her. Starting something new, something mine, not theirs. Thank you for showing me how. It was a photo. Her in front of a tiny office space with a startup sign behind her. Her startup, not mom and dad's approval project. Meanwhile, back in Seattle, I was promoted to lead a team on a multi-year sustainability initiative. We weren't just building grids anymore. We were helping entire towns transition off fossil fuels. People started coming to me for mentorship, interns, junior engineers, even folks from other departments. It felt strange at first, to be the one others looked to. One day, a fresh-out-of-school analyst asked me, Landon, how did you get here? Like, from where you started? I paused, then answered with the only truth I knew, by not letting anyone else define what I was capable of. I still don't talk to my parents every week. Some things take time. Some scars don't fully fade. But on the day I turned 25, I got a card in the mail. No glitter, no money inside, just my dad's handwriting. To the son we underestimated. We see you now, and we're proud. That was the first time I let myself cry in years. Not because I needed their approval, but because I no longer did. 1 year later, I was back in that same university auditorium. Only this time I wasn't just giving a speech. They invited me to join the advisory board for the engineering department. I almost laughed when I got the email. Me? The kid who didn't belong? The not college material one? But I said yes, not for the title, not even for the full circle moment. I said yes because there were other kids like me, smart in ways that didn't show up on test scores or transcript headers. At the welcome dinner for new board members, I looked around at the suits and titles, directors, PhDs, industry veterans, and me, a 26-year-old from a hardware store background, now overseeing million-dollar energy systems. The dean from my graduation, Dr. Nguyen, came over, shook my hand, and said, You know, you were one of the most talked-about students we ever had. I smiled. For good reasons, I hope. The best kind, he said. You reminded people that determination is intelligence. You didn't just pass courses, you changed minds. That night, I walked the campus alone before heading back to my hotel. I passed the engineering building, lights glowing softly through the windows. Somewhere inside, a student was probably struggling over a formula or pulling apart a model that just wouldn't click. And I wanted them to know, you're not behind. You're not broken. You're not less. Just because your brilliance isn't obvious to the world doesn't mean it's not real. Back in my apartment a few days later, I got a voicemail from my dad. Hey, Landon, just wanted to let you know, your mom framed that photo from your graduation. She keeps it in the hallway, across from Taylor's Stanford one. I think she checks on it more often than she admits. A pause. Anyway, I'm proud of you, son. Always have been. I just didn't know how to say it. I didn't call him back right away. I sat with it, listened again. Then I opened the drawer where I kept my graduation sash, still folded, still clean, and finally let myself smile. Not because they saw me now, but because long before they ever did, I already had.